So, what does intertestamental mean? Who created that word? Today, we will discuss how these people up here, how they define intertestamental. Shalom and Shalom Israel. Hello, Christians. What up to everyone else? Welcome to today's discussion of something to think about. It's presented by ThaBruthaz. Today's discussion will be on intertestamental, 400 years of silence, specifically on how they define intertestamental. Hashtag intertestamental. Like always, I will quickly go over some administrative details before we get started. Setting expectations. I plan on reading virtually everything on my slides and my notes since some people can only listen and are unable to watch. I will be following a script. It helps me to stay on point. Reminder, we will go a little slower than other content providers. This is not a cut session, okay? There's no smoke and daggers here. Pause if needed. These are some of the sources we will use in today's discussion. Pause if needed. Here are additional sources we will use in today's discussion. Pause if needed. These are the remaining sources that we will use in today's discussion. Note, we do not claim that any source or image that we use and/or reference is 100. Pause if needed. Fair use disclaimer. This video is for educational and scholarly purposes only. Pause if needed. Doctrine disclaimer. This video contains our personal opinions and interpretations and is not meant to dictate doctrine. This video does not contain hate speech, nor do we condone violence of any kind. Pause if needed. It's that time to give all praises to the Most High. Once again, how we do it. I will see you in a minute.
All praise to the Most High.
All right now.
All
Sing it.
praise to the Most High.
Go ahead, brother.
All
Come on now.
praise to the Most High.
All right now.
All
praise.
praise to the Most High.
Praise him. Come on now. Come on.
All praises.
All praises.
Come on now.
All praises.
All right
To
now.
the Most High. To the High. Praises. Come on now. All
Go ahead.
praises. All praises. Praise high. Praises. Praise high. Praise to the Most Hi.
Yahawah.
All right, giving all praises to the Most High. Okay, let's get started. This is the 9th video of this Apocrypha mini-series. Today's discussion is on the Intertestamental Period, also described as 400 years of silence. Here is the agenda. We will recap previous episodes. We will define intertestamental. We will go over who controlled Judea, languages and key events, why described as silent. I will give a brief summary, and then I will give some final comments. Recap. Once again, these are the typical books listed in the current Protestant Apocrypha that we presented in episode 36. This is the cover of my copy of the Protestant Apocrypha. It has these books: 1 and 2 Esdras, Tobit, Judith, Esther, including additions, Wisdom of Solomon, Sirach, aka Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, including letter to Jeremiah, 3 Holy Children, Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, Prayer of Manasseh, 1 and 2 Maccabees. Okay, these are the books that they associate with the so-called 400 silent years. We gave a high-level description of each of these books in our timeline videos. This is the first video of this mini-series titled Apocrypha, 400 Silent Years and Non-Canonical Books, episode 36. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discussed 6 reasons that they use to describe the Apocrypha as silent or non-canonical, and we provided actual sources for each reason. This is the second video of this mini-series and the first timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Books of Ezra, episode 37. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discussed the various titles of Ezra. We did a breakdown of 1 and 2 Esdras from the current Protestant Apocrypha. Main takeaway: 2nd Esdras chapters 1 and 2, 15 and 16 are separate from 2nd Esdras chapters 3 to 14, which is the core work. This is the third video of this mini-series and the second timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Books of Baruch, episode 39. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discussed how all of the books of Baruch may have been attributed to the scribe Baruch, which was used as a pseudonym, aka pseudoname. Please watch episode 39 for more details. This is the fourth video of this mini-series and the third timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Maccabees and the Hasmonean Dynasty, episode 40. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discussed where the name Maccabees originated and gave a detailed overview of all the books attributed to the name Maccabees. And yes, there are more than 2 books attributed to the name Maccabees. This is the 5th video of this mini-series and the 4th timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Additions to Daniel, episode 41. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discussed all of these additions: Prayer of Azariah, Song of 3 Holy Children, History of Susanna, Bel and the Dragon. This is the 6th video of this mini-series and the 5th timeline video, titled Apocrypha Timeline, Additions to Esther, episode 42. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discussed all of these additions: Mordecai's dream, the king's edict authorizing the destruction of the Jews, the prayers of Mordecai and Esther, Esther sees the king unannounced, royal decree reversing the previous edict, and the fulfillment and interpretation of Mordecai's dream. This is the 7th video of this mini-series and the 6th timeline video titled Apocrypha Timeline, Tobit, Judith, and the Prayer of Manasseh, episode 43. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
In this episode, we discuss things like how Tobit and Judith were actually considered canon in a few of the councils, the many discrepancies within the story of Judith, and how the prayer of Manasseh could be inserted after 2 Chronicles 33 and 13. Please watch episode 43 for more details. This is the 8th video of this mini-series and the 7th timeline video titled Apocrypha Timeline, Wisdom of Solomon and Ben Sira, episode 45. This is the thumbnail.
Check it out.
These are the last 2 Apocrypha books in the timeline portion of this mini-series. Like the previous timeline videos, we presented the historical settings for the content of these 2 books as well as the possible dates of composition. We also included some high-level details on Psalm 151 regarding David when he was a youth. Please watch episode 45 for more details. Apocrypha Timeline, Historical Setting. Where do these Protestant Apocrypha stories occur within the canonical Israelite writings? We presented the following timeline as a reference tool used to help identify the historical setting for each book. Okay, recall this orange time bar shows the approximate date range of most of the historical settings within the current Protestant Apocrypha, except for Psalm 151 and possibly chapters 1 and 2 and 15 and 16 of 2nd Esdras, which we discussed in a previous video on the books of Ezra. We also added a discussion on Psalm 151 in episode 45, Wisdom of Solomon and Ben Sira. We used the Bible Hub timeline for a lot of the Apocrypha historical setting since much of it falls within the Bible Hub timeline. We are not saying that the Bible Hub timeline is 100. We just use it as a reference. Please watch any of the previous Apocrypha timeline videos to see how we generated this approximate timeline of events for all these events that you see on the screen here. At any time, pause and needed if you need to view the slide and catch all the details. Apocrypha information. For each Apocrypha book discussed in our timeline videos, we presented the following information: description, date text was written, authors, languages, and historical setting. Once again, we did not show the date found, if applicable. For example, if and when a scroll was found in a cave, etc. We did not present information on such findings in any of our timeline videos. Apocrypha books. In the timeline videos, we discussed various details on all of the books in the current Protestant Apocrypha. We also included discussions on 2, 3, and 4 Baruch, 3, 4, and 5 Maccabees, and Psalm 151. Purpose. The purpose of the timeline videos was to provide some detailed information on each Apocrypha book to get a historical perspective on what each book was about. We eventually plan to discuss how they fit or do not fit into the canon. We will eventually compare the same criteria to current canonical writings, Lord willing.
What do you think?
Before we get into today's discussion on intertestamental, we have a few questions. How do you define intertestamental? Should the Protestant Apocrypha books be included in the Protestant Bible? Do you believe that some people use the Intertestamental Period as an excuse to keep certain books out of the Protestant Bible? Please pause the video and put your answers in the comment section. Once again, I hope you paused the video and gave us some answers. We definitely want to hear what you think. Let's continue. Intertestamental, the so-called 400 years of silence. We will now continue our Apocrypha series by discussing what they think. Okay, note, these people right here, they're not real. This is an artist rendition, okay? These are not real people. Intertestamental Period. We started this mini-series with a discussion on 400 silent years. We identified 6 reasons they call the Apocrypha books silent or non-canonical. Some people even use the description Intertestamental Period as another reason why we should not include certain Israelite writings in the canon. Before we continue, I would like to remind everyone what are the 6 reasons. This slide came from episode 36, 400 silent years. Okay, why described as silent? Reason number 1, these books appear in the Septuagint, Greek Old Testament, but not in the Hebrew Bible. Reason number 2, not divinely inspired. They lack authority. Reason number 3, questionable or uncertain authorship. Reason number 4, doctrinal differences, conflicts with apostolic or Protestant theology. Reason number 5, not quoted by Jesus or other New Testament writers. And reason number 6, contains no true messianic prophecies. Again, these are some of the reasons they use to describe the Apocrypha as silent or non-canonical. We will now discuss how they define or describe intertestamental. Intertestamental define. We typically use dictionaries from 1828 to 1913 for our definitions. We believe they are more authentic. However, the word intertestamental does not seem to have existed during this time. A casual internet search informs me that intertestamental was first recorded in the period 1925 to 1930, depending on what source you use. However, the concept of hidden books, books between, transition, between the testaments, etc., have been in existence for centuries. As we proceed, understand that almost all of the information from here forward will come from a source. We will now use a particular source to help us navigate our way through today's discussion. Introduction to the Intertestamental Period by Serberg, published 1975.
Look it up.
We will use this particular source for our general overview and navigational aid. We will start on page 9. It reads, when readers of the Bible turn its pages from chapter 4 of Malachi to chapter 1 of the Gospel according to St. Matthew, they pass not only from the Old to the New Testament, but they also pass over a number of centuries, an interlude of about 4 centuries. Certain scholars in the past have characterized these centuries as the silent centuries and have relegated them to oblivion, not considering them of much significance for Jewish history or for an understanding of the history and the theology of the New Testament.
That's something to think about.
Okay, that's something to think about. Intertestamental, the beginning and the ending. What is the beginning and the ending of this intertestamental period? What do they say? The period between the Old and New Testaments. It roughly coincides with the Second Temple period of Israel. The end of the Hebrew Scriptures, commonly recognized as closing with Malachi, and the beginning of the New Testament era, the events surrounding the births of John the Baptist and Jesus Christ. Chapter 4 of Malachi to chapter 1 of the Gospel of Matthew. It lasted roughly 400 years, from 420 BC to John the Baptist's ministry starting around 20 AD. Okay, again, all of this information came from various sources. So let's put these data points on a timeline. The beginning and ending markers could be the building of the Second Temple in 515 BC to the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. These could be viewed as the bookends, okay? This would be temple to temple, or the second temple period from approximately 515 BC to 70 AD, okay? However, the beginning could be the closing of Malachi around 430 to 420 BC. I chose 430 due to the Bible Hut timeline, okay? The ending could be around the birth of Jesus, approximately 5 BC, Matthew 1, Luke chapter 2, and or the ministry of John the Baptist, okay? So Malachi over here could be the beginning, and these two could be the ending, okay? So Malachi to John the Baptist from 430 BC to 20 AD, this is what we will use as our intertestamental period for the sake of this discussion. This is not 100% accurate. It is just a reference. Who controlled Judea and the Israelites during this time period? Back to our main source. We are back on page 9. These centuries are the key for the understanding and adequate comprehension of the life and literature of the New Testament. Further down on page 9. During the intertestamental period, important developments took place. Great dynastic changes occurred. The face of Europe was changed 2 or 3 times. The geography of European and Asiatic countries was greatly altered, and new civilizations appeared. The political and religious history of the intertestamental period is one with which the serious Bible student ought to be acquainted. The history of the interim between the testaments is invaluable for understanding the New Testament. It bridges the gap between the political and social conditions at the time of Malachi and the world that confronts the reader of the Gospels. During the intervening centuries, world control has passed from the Persians to the Romans, the West now in control instead of the East. The whole face of Jewish society has changed by New Testament times. And now, a quick summary of these political changes. Great changes occurred in the dynasties. The face of Europe was changed 2 or 3 times. The geography of European and Asiatic countries was greatly altered. New civilizations appeared, while others ended. World control has passed from the Persians to the Romans. The West is now in control instead of the East. Many empires conquered and reconquered Israel in this era. The whole face of Jewish society has changed by the New Testament times. Okay? Now it's time to review the dynasties. What political powers or dynasties existed during this time? What do scholars say? Persian to Greek. Entering into the intertestamental period, we have the Persian Empire, approximately 539 to 331 BC. The Persians had previously defeated the Babylonian Empire. Artaxerxes I ruled from 464 to 424 BC. Artaxerxes II ruled from 404 to 358 BC. I highlighted these 2 names because they are notable names during this time period. The Grecian rule, approximately 331 to 63 BC. The rise of Hellenistic culture. We got Alexander the Great from 334 to 323 BC, was part of the Macedonian dynasty. Okay, the empire splits after Alexander dies in 323 BC. Okay, I'm pointing out the rule here, but you see Alexander, he started his thing before what we call the Grecian rule. Other generals and their empires include Ptolemy and Seleucus. Other notable names include Antiochus and Onias. Maccabean revolt. Some argue the Maccabean revolt to be approximately 168 to 135 BC. Mattathias was of the family of Hasmon, or Asmoneus, which came to be the Hasmoneans. Mattathias had 5 sons: John, Simon, Judas, surnamed Maccabeus, Eleazar, and Jonathan. The Maccabean revolt began after the king of the ruling Seleucid Empire, Antiochus Epiphanes, entered the temple and sacrificed a pig upon the altar, and in doing so, desecrated the temple. Judas the Hammer Maccabeus means hammer, led a revolution and established his independent kingdom in Israel. When his revolution succeeded, the Hasmonean dynasty began. Hasmonean dynasty. Some argue the Hasmonean dynasty to be approximately 135 to 63 BC. Division between the Maccabean and Hasmonean periods is strictly arbitrary. The Pharisees and Sadducees developed after Judas Maccabeus established the Hasmonean dynasty. By Jesus' time, two other powerful groups, the Essenes, who lived separate from society in a desert, and the Zealots, who wanted to overthrow Rome, also existed. The Hasmonean dynasty ended when Rome invaded. The Romans installed a puppet kingdom with an Edomite named Herod as its face. Roman rule. The Roman Empire. Hyrcanus II, a Hasmonean high priest, ruled several places including Judea, Galilee, and Idumea, while paying annual tribute to Rome. In 63 BC, the Jews lost their independence when Roman General Pompey once again brought them under the yoke of the heathen. Antipater, the Idumean, paved the way for Herod. The reign of Herod the Great in Jerusalem began in 37 BC and lasted until his death in 4 BC. Now, let's put these ruling dynasties of Judea into the timeline. Recall our intertestamental time frame. Again, we will use Malachi to John the Baptist from approximately 430 BC to 20 AD as our time frame. So, where do the empires and or dynasties fit into this timeline? The following are the empires or ruling dynasties that had control over Judea and the children of Israel during the intertestamental period. Entering into this period, we have the Persian Empire, approximately 539 to 331 BC. A familiar name, King Artaxerxes II, was ruling during this time from 404 to 358 BC. The Grecian rule and the rise of Hellenistic culture is around 331 to 63 BC. Alexander the Great was part of the Macedonian dynasty. The empire split after Alexander died in 323 BC. Ptolemaic Empire was centralized in Egypt and controlled Judea from 305 to 200 BC. The Seleucid Empire controlled Judea from 200 to 167 BC. Maccabean revolt started approximately 167 BC and the Hasmonean dynasty formed thereafter. The Hasmonean dynasty ended approximately 63 BC when Rome invaded. Rome took control of Judea under General Pompey in 63 BC. The Romans eventually installed a puppet kingdom with an Edomite named Herod as its face. A unified Rome emerged in 27 BC. Okay? These are the dynasties that had control over Judea during the intertestamental period.
Remember, do your own research.
I encourage everyone to do your own research regarding all of this historical information. Okay? Pause if needed. You might even see the intertestamental timeline broken down into or described as these historical periods. Okay, you got Persian, Alexandrian, Egyptian, Syrian, Maccabean, and Roman. Okay, again, pause at any time if you want to continue reviewing any slide. Okay, pause at any time. What languages were spoken during this time period? Continuing on page 10 of our main source. Greek is universally used throughout the Roman Empire as the language of the New Testament. At the end of the Old Testament period, Aramaic had become the lingua franca of the Persian Empire. From where did the Greek language come? Why did the Jews in the dispersion not read their scriptures in Hebrew instead of in Greek, in a translation known as the Septuagint? Okay, let's now take a closer look at the languages spoken during this time frame. Languages. During the Babylonian period, the Jews had adopted Imperial Aramaic in place of the Old Classical Hebrew language. Aramaic had been a Semitic and Syriac dialect spoken in Babylonian Valley and was closely related to Hebrew. At the end of the Old Testament period, Aramaic had become the lingua franca of the Persian Empire. Aramaic replaced Hebrew as the main spoken language. However, Hebrew had not become a totally dead language. During the conquest of Alexander the Great, Greek became the universal language, lingua franca of the Roman Empire, the language of the New Testament. So, where do these languages fit into the timeline? During Babylon, Imperial Aramaic took place of the classical Hebrew language, a Semitic and Syriac dialect. Okay, that's way over here to the left. I just want to add that as additional data point. At the end of the Old Testament period, during Persian control, Aramaic had become the lingua franca of the Persian Empire. Okay, so right here, Aramaic, lingua franca of the Persian Empire. Okay, Aramaic replaced Hebrew as the main spoken language. However, again, Hebrew had not become a totally dead language. During Alexander the Great's conquest, Greek became the universal language. This continued through the Hasmonean rule and Roman control, from General Pompey and beyond. Okay, Greek was the lingua franca of the Greek, Hasmonean, and Roman dynasties, and the language of the New Testament. What are some other notable events documented during this so-called silent time? Back on page 10 of our main source. Studying the developments of the intertestamental period will enable him to understand many of the changes that have occurred. In the days of Malachi, the population was scanty. The cities were heaps of rubbish. The land everywhere bore the marks of long desolation. In early New Testament days, Palestine appears as one of the most densely populated parts of the Roman Empire. Its cities are crowded. Its terraced hills are cultivated to the last inch. What are some other groups of people and key events that occurred during this time? Many of us know this first name from the movies. We got Spartan hegemony or dominance from 404 to 371 BC. We got Alexander the Great, thought the Greek or Hellenistic culture was the greatest the world had ever seen. Established Greek cities such as Alexandria in Egypt, 331 BC. This city, Alexandria, is a key city in the early church period. We got purification and rededication of the temple from approximately 164 BC, from which we have the festival known as Hanukkah. Onias III, or IV, depending on the source, builds a replica temple in Egypt approximately 154 BC. In episode 15, Various Temples Defined, we discussed how Onias fled to Egypt and went to Ptolemy and Queen Cleopatra with a request to build a temple in Egypt. This story is found in the complete works of Flavius Flav Josephus. For more details on this story, please watch episode 15, Various Temples Defined. We also got the Septuagint, translation of the Hebrew scriptures into Greek language, approximately 280 to 250, depending on source, started with the Torah. We discussed this in our debut video, episode 1, Christianity Not for Israelites. The Greeks wanted the sacred law, the Torah, for themselves. They wanted the royal library at Alexandria to have a copy of the Jewish Torah or law. The Pharisees arose between 150 to 100 BC from the Hasidim, the devout, the religious, emphasized adherence to the law and oral tradition. The Pharisees didn't have much appreciation for the Hasmonean dynasty because the kings were not from the line of David. They were opposed by the more secular-minded Sadducees. The Sadducees also arose during this time, 150 to 100 BC. Were connected to the temple priesthood and aristocracy, where power and high social status were concentrated by a small and privileged class of people. Hasmoneans joined forces with the Sadducees. We got the Essenes, the same time period, 150 to 100 BC, communal and lived separate from society, possibly lived in the desert. And then we have the Zealots at 6 AD, advocated for armed resistance to foreign powers, wanted to overthrow Rome. We got Herod the Great, was called the King of the Jews and completely ended the old Maccabean line of Judean princes, approximately 40 BC to 4 BC. Herod also facilitated the renovation of the temple, approximately 18 BC. Where do these additional entities and events fit into the timeline? We got the Spartan hegemony or dominance, 404 to 371 BC. We got Alexander the Great, founder of Alexandria in Egypt, 331 BC. The Greek Septuagint started with the Torah, 280 to 250 BC. I chose 280 due to our episode 1 discussion. Okay? We have the purification and rededication of the temple, approximately 164 BC, resulted in Hanukkah. Okay? Onias IV builds a replica temple in Egypt, approximately 154 BC. We got the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Essenes all formed around 150 to 100 BC. Herod the Great was called King of the Jews, approximately 40 BC to 4 BC. This designation appears to be 3 years before he started his reign in Jerusalem in 37 BC. Herod also facilitated the renovation of the temple around 18 BC. Okay? And then we have the Zealots, who were formed around 6 AD. Again, pause if needed. There is a lot of detail on this screen, so you might want to just look it over. Recall episode 36, 400 Silent Years and Non-Canonical Books. This is where we presented 6 reasons why they called the Apocrypha 400 Silent Years. So, what is the main reason this time period is called silent? By now, it seems obvious that the Intertestamental Period was far from silent. So, why are these 400 years called silent? It is not due to the false impression that there was no activity. The Intertestamental Period is called the 400 years of silence because the Jews believed prophecy ceased at the beginning of this time. They claim there was no true prophecy during these 400 years. Recall episode 36. How do they know there was no prophecy during these 400 years? Is it because it is not documented? Do they believe it was never documented? Or is it simply not in documentation that we have access to today? For example, if someone did not find some scroll in a cave somewhere, then would they say it did not exist? Recall in episode 2, Israelites Don't Need Greek Canon, we discussed that there are 20 to 21 lost books mentioned within the Israelite writings. If the names of those books were not mentioned in the Israelite writings, would they also claim that those books never existed? Do they use this word silent to make it seem like nothing happened? To keep us from researching the history of those 400 years? The question is, why call it silent and give us that impression?
Now that's really something to think about.
Okay, just something to think about. Let's summarize what we covered today. This time frame covers roughly 4 centuries. While often referred to as the 400 silent years, many significant political, cultural, and religious developments took place that deeply influenced the context into which Jesus was born. While prophecy may have ceased, Israel was being conquered and reconquered numerous times, yet Israel endured. Israel even ruled their own nation for a time until the Romans came in and ruled Judea. Note, it is my understanding that a confederacy between Jews and Romans started in 161 BC and lasted until the Second Temple was destroyed. Okay? My understanding from previous studies. These centuries are the key for understanding and adequate comprehension of the life and literature of the New Testament. Studying the developments of the intertestamental period will enable us to understand many of the changes that have occurred. During this time, there were also several developments in Jewish thought. Religious groups arising during this time are found throughout the New Testament narrative, contributing significantly to the religious and social climate that Jesus and his disciples navigated. Greek linguistic and cultural influences explain why the New Testament was written in Koine Greek, making the gospel message accessible across the Roman Empire. I want to know, accessible to who? Okay, what were they thinking? The shift from Hebrew or Aramaic to Greek drew more attention to the Jewish faith from people outside the Jewish culture. Who was outside? Is it the other people in the Roman Empire? A brother wants to know. By the 1st century AD, there are nearly 1 million Jews living in Egypt. 2 of the 5 wards of Alexandria were also known as Jewish districts. Okay? So whenever I see the word Jews and Jewish, I always question if these are ethnic Israelites or converts. Okay? Were these 2 wards full of Jewish people or Israelites?
Now that's really something to think about.
Our main source informs us where we can find answers and explanations to many of our questions. Back on page 10, we see this. The answer is to be found in the years between the last books of the Old Testament and the coming of John the Baptist in the New. Once again, there are many questions that can be answered if we would simply read and study the history contained within these so-called 400 years of silence, in my opinion.
That's something to think about.
Final comments. The political tension under Roman rule highlight the desires of many in Israel for the prophesied Messiah, one who would triumph over oppression. The intertestamental period, though called silent regarding direct prophetic writings, was remarkably active in shaping the religious and cultural context during the life of Yahawashi, or Jesus. Empires rose and fell, religious groups developed, and the stage was perfectly set for the plan of the Most High and redemption for his people, Israel. Is there proof regarding this plan for the people of Israel? Let's see what it says in Luke chapter 1, 68 to 71, RSV. 68. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, the Lord God of Israel, for he has visited and redeemed his people. Who is the Lord God of Israel's people? Well, that would be the people of Israel. And has raised up a horn of salvation for us. Okay? Salvation for Israel in the house of his servant David. Verse 70. As he spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets from old. 71. That we should be saved from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us. Saved from our enemies, okay? This sounds like a definition of salvation. Let's continue. The Israelites awaited the day when the Messiah would come and drive out the authorities and power structures, keeping them from worshiping the Most High in the way they truly wanted to. These were the expectations placed on Jesus by his disciples in his day. Acts chapter 1 verse 6 RSV. So when they had come together, they asked him, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? That was the expectation. And it still is.
Now that's really something to think about.
Closing remarks.
What do you think?
Before we close out this discussion, we have a few more questions. Do you still consider the intertestamental period as silent? Are they hiding something by generally describing the 400 years as silent? Is the Catholic denomination right or wrong when they include Protestant apocryphal books in the Catholic Bible and/or canon? Please put your answers in the comment section of this video, or you can send us an email. Please check the description box of this channel for that email, or we always try to have our email in the description text of all of our video discussions. Once again, we thank you for your feedback. Looking forward. The purpose of episode 36, 400 Silent Years, and this video, Intertestamental Period, was to highlight why they describe these years as silent. The timeline videos provided some information on each apocryphal book. We will eventually discuss how they fit or do not fit into the canon and compare them with current canonical writings, Lord willing. Research.
Remember, do your own research.
The views contained in this video were our personal opinions and our interpretations of sources used and were not meant to dictate doctrine. We recommend to everyone, do your own research. We plan to list all of our sources that we use in all of our discussion videos. We are citing the sources and, when appropriate, providing page numbers so you can trust but verify. We encourage everyone, read as much as you can. There is a lot of historical Israelite literature out there for all of us to access, and we admit some material is hard to find. This concludes today's discussion on intertestamental, 400 years of silence, how they defined intertestamental, #intertestamental. We want to thank you for watching this discussion of something to think about. I am Brother Mitch, and my brother is Brother Mike. We are the brothers. We are disciples of Yahawashi. I want to say Shalom and Shalom Israel. Goodbye, Christians. Hi to everyone else. Till next time.
Follow the brothers.
On YouTube,
Hebrew Connect TV.
X,
Fanbase,
Rumble.
or visit their website.
See also Facebook, Gab, and Truth.
The following is an HBO special featuring the brothers.
Yo, can you help the brothers out?
HBO special.
can use PayPal.
The brothers need some digital money.
Or you can use CashApp.
Every little bit helps.
Please support their efforts.
You can even use a credit card.
And Venmo.
Why are you selling cookies?
Please help support this organization.
It's okay if you can't give. Just spread the word.
That's just as important as giving.